Hey everyone, before I get started, I just want to remind you that if you like my content, hit that like button, subscribe to my channel, and then join the Militiaman and Crew Patreon community by clicking the link in the caption. Hey, good evening everybody. Militiaman and Crew, just wanted to say hello, good evening, and I hope everybody's having a great afternoon and a great day. It's been busy for us, but the bottom line is it's interesting tonight. Dear Samson, she came out and she says, hey, don't forget to get this article. And I said, okay, because I've been busy doing some other things today. Got loose ends to take care of, and just like everybody else, we all have lives, and we try to do this on a regular basis, as fast and furious as possible, but sometimes, you know, we've got to take care of business. So anyway, this article that came out today it says there's no real deficit in the general budget and its schedules. And this came from the Parliamentary Finance Committee. And interestingly enough, I think that if everybody realizes, and if you go back into Patreon, patreon.com/MM and Crew, you'll be able to come in and see that you'll have the ability to search for articles, and you'll be able to search for, you know, phrases if you want to in the search bar. And you can do years, days, months, whatever. And you can see what you can find, and you can see patterns. And that's what I'd like to do. I've learned this in the past, and Samson has been really, really good about her ability to find information, you guys, is phenomenal. And the good part about that is some of us have the ability to be able to take and see the patterns that are in some of that data, because it's a lot. I mean, I get like 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 pages sometimes a day with 10 articles each day to go through. And that's how we collect our data. That's the backbone inside of Patreon. And it's been going on for many, many years in the past, but that's one of the reasons why we have a connection. We have other crew members that have their own expertises, and we have new members that have their own abilities and their own genres that they work. Some people are accountants, some people are attorneys, some people are in business, some people have worked for credit card companies, some people have been in banking for 30 years. So there's a lot of people that come into our room and share their expertise. And the cool part, though, is that one of the things that I've just happened to focus in on today was, as Samson brought my attention, she wanted me to make sure of it. Pompey Peter was involved because he earlier on said, hey, don't forget this one. It's on page 5, number 3, I think it was. Something like that. Could be wrong, but if I reflect correctly, it's probably right. But anyway, this article is interesting because it says the Parliamentary Finance Committee confirmed that there is no real deficit in the tables of the general budget law approved by the House of Representatives. Yeah, so the vice chairman of the committee, his name is Al Dulami, is basically saying the existence of the deficit in the budgets is within the usual ceiling, and this is called a planned deficit, not a real deficit that is not being implemented. Therefore, the 2024 budget, the value of the deficit was 64 trillion dinars. Translation is pretty weak, but ultimately we're going to find out that I got a really strong feeling that when the Parliamentary Finance Committee is now reiterating what we have pages of, which is the Prime Minister, and we have his advisor, Soleil, discussing what a hypothetical budget is. This keeps on going and says that the Finance Committee confirms the government and the Finance Ministry addressed the deficit through the differences in the price of a barrel of oil, which the budget estimated at $70 and is currently sold up for about $80. Okay, so that means that they've had money coming for quite some time. So I'll tell you what, that's where these guys have this not real deficit. Okay, the not real deficit is a supposed deficit. It's a hypothetical deficit. In other words, it's not real as a deficit. But what have they been doing? They've been doing things since 2022, effectively, to be able to have this hypothetical budget. And my impression is, I haven't quite got my head wrapped around it 100%, but I'm going to share it anyway because I think it's interesting. And so don't hold me to it. This is a spitball, if you will. But I'm fairly sure that we've got quite a few pages of data that's going to give support that this deficit they call a hypothetical or a not real budget or not real deficit or other words that they use are specifically used for a purpose. And that's because they have plenty of money and they have a plan to do something with that money. And what it is in my view, at the moment, is bring value to the currency through a mechanism of effectively hiding it. And because they've been talking about this for over a year. So this came out today, Tuesday the 25th. What is it? Yeah, got you guys, today. And so here's an article that's dated, as you guys can see, January 14th, 2023. So think about it for a minute. Here we go. It says 200 trillion hypotheticals. The Sudanese advisor sets the spending ceiling in the 2023 budget. So he sets the spending ceiling prior to the 2023 budget. We know that the 2023 is the very beginning of a tripartite budget, 23, 24, and 25. So here it says the financial advisor to the Prime Minister, Maher Mohamed Saleh, suggests that the spending ceiling for the current year 2023 would reach the barrier of 200 trillion dinars. I think you guys have heard that it's probably a little more like 211, but let's just keep in tune. Here it says specifying 3 directions that will be supported. So specifying 3 directions that will be supported in an event of a financial surplus. That is a key point, because a financial surplus, again, if it's hypothetical, it's not real. Okay? So by suggesting it, maybe it's a little bit misleading, but or are they saying, hey, this is what it sounds like because we have things to do in the background and that's what we're going to do and that is what we're doing? Yes, so they're not really lying, which is, they shouldn't. They should be able to tell you that they're doing something and they're doing it that's going to have a benefit for everybody. And that's what that sentence says, specifying 3 directions that will be supported in the event of a financial surplus. And we just come to talking about oil's in the budget for 2023 was at $70, but oil's been over 80 and for quite some time. So they're gaining a lot of money. And then they've increased non-oil revenues at the borders, lot of money. Liquid natural gas, etc., lot of money. So they have those types of things. Agriculture. So do you guys realize that this is happening? So when they say 3 directions, they're going to get into that, I believe. But including strengthening the development funds included in the government curriculum is one. They go on to say that they had $70 a barrel oil export capacity at 3.4 million barrels a day, and that was in the previous year, up until the 2023 budget. It says spending in the 2023 budget is one that will ultimately decide whether or not there's a hypothetical deficit. So that's the first time they bring it up here, or how much is the supposed deficit. There's an extra word, supposed, hypothetical. Okay, so Saleh says the need to include the financial surpluses collected at the end of the fiscal year 2022 and count them as an opening balance for the current year 2023 legally. So they had to do that to be able to be in a legal standing, and I believe that they did, and they have laws, the emergency law for food and security development, and it was number 2 of 2022 that allotted for that. So there's various cases that they talked about. He goes, I expect, this is Saleh, he goes, I expect spending ceiling in the next budget to exceed the barrier of the 150 trillion dinars up to 200 if it is the hypothetical deficit, the supposed or the not real or the, again, hypothetical. A way that does not exceed 15% of the total spending due to the existence of financial savings from the past year in 2022. So effectively, they're basically stating that they've saved a bunch of money in 2022 and they had surplus. And so they're going to be using it in some shape, form, or manner. And that's why you'll see these guys keep talking about it. But again, I'm going to revert back. Saleh and the Prime Minister talk about it in the past. He talked about that today. Okay, this is the Finance Committee did. Advisor to the Prime Minister, the financial situation in the country indicates a high degree of stability. This is in August, so this was in the last one was in January. One was today, we went back to January, and this one I think is going to be one of my more recent ones from January 2023. It's in August, so it's about 8 months later. It says, the financial advisor to the Prime Minister, Mohammed Saleh, ruled out a financial deficit during the current year of 2023. While he put forward two reasons, he confirms that the financial situation in the country indicates a high degree of stability to the official agency, and then they go on to say the federal general budget for the years 23, 24, and 25 have taken into account sufficient precaution for fluctuations in annual budget revenues, and specifically oil revenues, as the fiscal policy adopted by the hypothetical or precautionary deficit amounting is approximately to 64 trillion dinars. So they talked about 64 trillion dinars almost a full year ago in this particular case, because we're not quite there yet, but getting close. So it says the federal government or the general budget indicated at the same time that its law as a clear precautionary detail for the sources of the financing the deficit as well. They go on to say it is financing sources will be when necessary from the surpluses of the internal financial market by dealing with bonds, treasury transfers, and which are going to be issued by the government and so forth, and by the banking system, and from their public and from their financial resources. So they have the bonds ready to go, they have banking systems in line, and they did that. That was back in August of 2023. So despite the foregoing, we do not expect a deficit during the current fiscal year for two reasons. The first is the existence of financial surpluses from about 23 trillion dinars, and the second is that the cycle of oil assets is trending toward an upward movement, as the average barrel of Brent is about $85 a barrel, which means that there's going to be demand, global increasingly dependence on the oil, of course. So, but he's not wrong, and he hasn't been wrong, because that was back in August. And what's oil today? Relatively speaking, it's really close. It's going to be in the 80s to the 85 range, and upper 70s. He says, if the situation continues until the end of the current fiscal year, the country's financial situation indicates a high degree of stability in a positive way, warning at the same time of the importance of imposing financial discipline in managing the state's public expenditures, as well as maximizing financial revenues according to timing required to ensure their cash flows. Basically, he's reassuring everybody the proper manner is underway and the country's gearing for financial sustainability. And that, again, sustainability is one of those words that the globe's going for. The World Trade Organization is a core of. You have all kinds of entities that have been talking about sustainable development. And Al-Sudani everybody has. So Al-Sudani's advisor explains, so here's Saleh again. He's basically stating one more time is that the economic and financial advisor of the Prime Minister, he says the planned deficit in the federal general budget is a hypothetical deficit. So he repeats it again. He talks about $70 a barrel. He talks about the oil amount, 3 or 4 million barrels a day. He goes on and continues, it will also contribute to reducing it, and that this is what is currently happening in the general budget. So him, by saying reducing it, I have a feeling it's not talking about the price of the barrel of oil. What he's saying is that because of the nature that we have a $70 barrel of oil in our budget and it's over $80, they're reducing the deficit. So basically they're going to wipe the deficit out, so therefore it's a hypothetical one. Okay, that's my view. It says the first time in history Iraq approved a 3-year financial budget in a single draft law, which Parliament voted on last June 12th. The government defended the step by saying that it aims to develop plans for important projects in the country, in addition to avoiding the problems of delaying the approval of financial budgets every year for several months. He says the budget for the current year and the next 2 years, according to the budget law, amounted to $153 billion, with an expected deficit of $48 billion, oil price $70, da 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 da. Okay, so they're ultimately still saying that they haven't diffused that they have a lot to cover, but they're in the process of doing it, and we know that by the fact is that they keep calling it a hypothetical. And again, this article came out is October, so that was August, now it's October. All right, and so here in October 29th, for instance, Saleh reveals the mechanism for establishing sovereign funds. And what are they going to do that for? He says, well, the financial advisor, he says, reveals that the mechanisms for establishing sovereign funds, it says the rise in oil prices above the set price in the budget goes towards filling the hypothetical deficit. So they're filling the hypothetical deficit by what? Creating sovereign funds. It's wonderful, you guys. They're basically telling us this. We should have known this a long time ago. He stated the establishment of sovereign funds is approved if there's a surplus in the general budget for the 3 years when it exceeds the deficit and exceeds the balance, then one can think about investing those surpluses in a sovereign wealth fund. Okay, that's probably exactly what they've been doing this whole time. I love this stuff. He says here, January 22nd, 2024, so that was October 23, January 2024, Saleh, he's on record for saying the average price of 1 barrel of oil exported was around $70 in that budget, a hypothetical financial deficit of $62 billion. But wait, they said that here it says that the average price of 1 barrel of exported oil, oh, I'm sorry, yeah, it's $70. He goes on and says that the hypothetical financial deficit of $62 billion was also set, but by the end of the year in 2023, the Iraqi economy breathed a sigh of relief, and local and international economic circles, so people all over local and international circles, they expected the value of the hypothetical deficit will disappear or decrease to a large extent due to the rise in oil prices in the global markets. So here he comes back and says, we've already kind of warned you about it, and this is what we're doing. There are several factors that accompany these positive indicators. There has been a return of a large amount of stolen funds. They go on to say judicial prosecutions of some heads of financial corporations or corruption in the country had a major role in that issue. And the second was financial planning for the 3-year budgets and high flexibility and efficiency to adopting spending on strategic projects that could constitute a qualitative shift in the future of development in Iraq during the coming years, specifically manufacturing industries and investment in natural resources, such as gas, and not neglecting the urgent needs to implement service projects related to the lives of the citizens, such as social welfare expenditures, increasing their allocations that are represented monthly subsidies, all of these different things, increasing the food basket, which we all have seen, the drug basket we've seen, pharmaceuticals. We received the budget's high priority in terms of sustainability and efficiency. We can see that in order to support low-income families, these guys are moving forward. It's a wonderful thing. The financial accumulations from the rise of the hypothetical price of a barrel of oil sold contributed greatly to the accelerated reconstruction campaign that's been supervised by the Prime Minister himself and a group of advisors. Now think about this. This is for the 23, 24, 25 budget, and they haven't even got to the 24, 25 budget. So he goes here and he says, expansion of expectations for an increase in the funds allocated to in the 2-year budget for the 24 and 25 budget, right? This matter opens the way for the government to direct the surplus towards the investment budget. And that's what we are waiting for as we speak. that to me is that we haven't seen them expose that rate or that information to us just yet. But they're going to. They don't have much choice, because guess what? June 12th, we've already said it. It became law. And basically, as far as the appeals and all those things are concerned, I think the court already said today is that you got to be careful with that, is that just because they have an appeal doesn't mean they're going to have any weight to them. So here again, Soleil says the budget tables are almost complete, and we're talking about now it's only in April of 2024, and here we are, what? In June, heading into July. It says the Prime Minister's Advisor, Financial Affairs, Mahar Soleil, says that 2024 budget's almost complete. That was in April 17th. It says the presentation of the financial schedule for the fiscal year 2024 by the Executive Authority for parliamentary approval is to be flexible. It's the flexible legislation path. It's on that as an integral part of the financial constants and principles of the Federal General Budget Law, number 13 of 2023, which is what? The tripartite budget. So if you guys are following along on this, it's fascinating. I know it's a lot of information. It's kind of going fast, but the tables that include revenues, public expenditures, the estimated hypothetical deficit, again, and they're within the law. They're saying that that's within the law. Was originally legislated by the House of Representatives, and it was actually published in the official Gazette last year. So they talk about that. It says it was done last year. Okay, so, but they still haven't quite got past the hypothetical situation. We want to get to the real deal. The proposed financial tables that are being prepared by the Executive Authority today have become almost complete. It says that he goes on to add that the financial schedules prepared for the 2024 will take into account the urgent economic and social conditions and changes required by the need for economic development in the year 2024. And we're totally watching them develop that. They're going into the economic development stage, especially new investment projects and financial commitments and pledges during the current year, in order to implementing it as an annual financial plan within the framework of the principles of the tripart general budget itself, in the letter and in spirit. So ultimately they have been up front telling us how they're going to act and what they're going to do. It's fascinating. So the advisor, again, to the Prime Minister, this guy's been talking, he's been talking about it for over a year, everybody. So he's been giving words. I mean, it wasn't Al-Sudani did it. Soleil just doesn't make this stuff up. He's the advisor. He's the one that's a spokesperson. He's got some weight, been around a long time, and he's giving oodles of information over a period of time. And the understanding of the hypothetical situation was not quite understood. But now we know that it's based off the fact that there's a surplus monies that came from 2022. We thought so in the past. But it's also coming from the fact that it's been budgeted at $70 a barrel. And so there's been $10, $15 a barrel, every oil barrel that's going out. But keep in mind, they're really not talking about all of the revenue streams that are coming through the borders. Okay, so it's in that, and all the money we mentioned, they mentioned clawing back money, okay, from the corrupt. So all of that stuff is going to come into play. They added gold reserves, the dollar reserves, foreign reserves, all gone up, right? So keep a close watch on all of this. So here it goes. May 26th, a little over a month later, the advisor to the Prime Minister, this article says the pattern of public spending will contribute to reducing the 2024 budget deficit. And it goes, the variables and financial tables for 2024 were in accordance with the constants adopted by the federal tripartite budget, of course, of 2023, especially with regard to what? The axis of the hypothetical budget or the hypothetical deficit. So anyway, and here it is again, it's 64 trillion. But this is where it's interesting, because they really tell you the truth. He says he pointed out that oil prices are still higher than their estimates in the tripartite budget of $70 a barrel with a positive change rate of more than 16% above the approved prices. And we are approaching the middle of the fiscal year, which we are in now, we're ending that, while maintaining the export rates approved in the budget and managing oil production efficiently and in accordance with international agreements with OPEC and on the issue of controlling production quotas. So fascinating as it may be, but here we are at the end of June, and we're going to go into July. Yep, so there's high discipline in maximizing non-oil revenues, especially tax and customs revenues, specifically for and after adopting the automation. I like that. After adopting the automation, the more modern methods, information technology and tax and customs estimation and collection. So fascinating. We started out this process, been telling you about it, and now we're coming to more to the recent times. Even though I've already said it, we can see it happening, and they're telling it like it is, like we've deduced. So it's really kind of fun to see that. How about the next part? It says the pattern of public spending, according to the schedules announced, is characterized by accuracy, objectivity, and self-savings, which contributes to what? Reducing the resort to financing the actual deficit. So they don't have to finance anything because they've got a surplus of money. They've been saving money. They've got the unified treasury account. They've got all that stuff going on. They talked about sovereign funds. Okay, so all the little bits and pieces, you keep adding this stuff up and you're going to go, man, these guys really do. If all this stuff is what they're saying is what I deduce to be close to being real, these guys are going to be popping with money. Okay, at the end of the day, reducing the resort to financing is huge. Basically, Soleil is on track for achieving their goals. That's what they're talking about. But there was a little bit of a snippet that happened on March 11th that fits just a little bit prior to April and May and up to now, which is in June. It says the Iraqi government is currently weighing the question of changing the currency so that the official cost of a US dollar will be 1.32 Iraqi dinars instead of 1,320. Implementing such a decision is likely to significantly increase al-Sudani's popularity. Okay, so to me, that article right there is basically part of that project to delete the zeros. And there's more to the story on that, but that is just a key snippet. That's March 11th, 2024. And you heard me say it, you can find it in our Patreon room. And so the last page I want to go over, you guys, is the global indicators confirm that oil prices will continue to rise until the end of 2025. The Soleil, here's another one, right? It says, this is on 6/24, so this was not today, it was yesterday. Identified the most important economic gains achieved due to the rise of oil prices, pointed out the global market sources indicate that the current rise in oil prices will continue until the end of 2025. There's a clear link between the rise in revenues from Iraq's exported oil due to the rise in energy prices in global markets, basically, and sustainability of financing investment projects whose allocations are estimated in the federal general budget law for 2023. So they're on track. They got the money to do what they need to do. It says a rise in oil prices above their estimated rates leads to reducing the hypothetical deficit gap. So here they're literally just saying it yesterday, just to prove my point. It says they're reducing the hypothetical deficit gap in the annual general budget, which is estimated at approximately 64 trillion and dinars, and provide sustainability of the spending and development projects, stressing that the hypothetical deficit is no longer a reason for faltering or delaying reconstruction projects and expenditures related to investment. I think they should drop the mic. Come on, Alak. Come on out, bud. Anyway, the government program has prioritized its philosophy and general directions, the policy of diversifying sources of income in the national economy. So they're diversifying, they're doing all the things that are necessary. And it says here, he goes that the first time sovereign guarantees are granted to market activities, and the private sector as a partner in development with a priority to major economic diversification activities by providing appropriate financing to the private sector from global financial sources in order to finance the transfer of modern technology, especially with the manufacturing and petrochemicals industries, as well as industries related to provisions of high quality products. A link to reconstruction to ensure stable and high growth rates and provide the requirements of sustainable development and operations. So basically, he points out global energy markets sources indicate that oil will continue to rise into the 2025. And right now, with an average price of a barrel of crude no less than $82, which is an average that exceeds the conservative price mentioned in the general budget law, which was estimated at about $70 a barrel. Al-Saleh just kind of knocks it out of the park. I think that last paragraph is phenomenal. You guys absorb it, listen to it a few times, enjoy. So thank you for being with us tonight. Militiaman and crew, enjoyed your company. I want to give a big shout out to our crew. I want to say, Samson, you've done a phenomenal job. Thank you for stimulating this conversation tonight. Much appreciated. Poppy Peter was involved in that this morning. And so this evening when you rattled my cage, I just knew that I had that already in my head because I touched on it, and we have that in our Patreon room, and it's a collective body. That's why I find stuff. If you find the collective, you can see that this isn't just the old days. It's a progress of education that they are teaching us, and they're teaching their people, and they're telling the world what they're doing. And those with the big money, they know how this is rolling, and they can see this. They're not open in up front like I might be, and some of the other folks out there. But the bottom line is that these are the things that we should be paying attention to and feel good about. Because why? Because this is showing us that big things are happening. Thank you very much, you guys. Appreciate it. We'll see you. Hit that like button, please. Subscribe, and don't forget, all the little help you guys have been doing is keeping these wheels rolling. I appreciate it. Once again, guys, don't forget to hit that like button if you like this content. Subscribe to the channel or join us at the Militiaman and Crew Patreon community for even more exclusive content. You can also donate to this channel by hitting the links in the banner to help keep this page up and running. Your generous support is greatly appreciated, as always. Much, much appreciated. Thank you so much, and have a great day.